Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Whitney Ward. The suspect in the murders of four University of Idaho students likely will not return to court for nearly 6 more months. A status hearing wrapped up just a few hours ago for Brian Kohberger, the man police say stabbed those 4 students to death back in November. Today, he waived his right to a speedy preliminary hearing, and a judge set a date for that hearing for all the way in June. Nicole Hernandez was in the courtroom as it happened today and tells us now what we can expect next.
So we will not be seeing the suspect in court again for more than 5 months now. This after a very short status hearing earlier this morning. We were in the courtroom today. The judge set Brian Kohberger's preliminary hearing for Monday, June 26th. Typically in Idaho, the preliminary hearing has to happen within 2 weeks of the first appearance. The suspect, though, waived his right to a speedy preliminary hearing to give his attorneys time to review the information in the case. The judge reserved the entire week of the 26th for the presentation of evidence, which is what a preliminary hearing is. That evidence is what Moscow PD outlined in the arrest affidavit the courts released last week. After the preliminary hearing will be the arraignment. That's where the suspect will either plead guilty or not guilty. This was the second time we've seen Kohberger in court here in Idaho. He again had a very calm demeanor and again did not address the people in the back of the courtroom, only addressing his attorneys as well as the judge. And the judge did say he will be in custody with no bail until that preliminary hearing. In Moscow, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
And this development in the legal case means we could be waiting a lot longer to get more answers. Janelle Finch is joining us now in the studio, breaking down this legal tactic from the defense. Janelle?
Whitney, a trial lawyer I spoke to today says a suspect can waive this right for a number of reasons, but it does set into motion next steps to formally charge the suspect. For the public, updates from the Latah County Court over the next 5 months may be scarce. A lot of action will be going on behind the scenes. In this time, the defense and prosecution will be reviewing the facts of the case to prepare for a scheduled week-long presentation of evidence in June. Mo Hammoudi is a former criminal defense lawyer and current trial lawyer out of Seattle. He explains what's happening now and what could occur in the time before June 26th. He explains each party is investigating the matter at this time and speaking to one another. He suspects that between now and then, 2 of things may happen. The case may come to a close or see a resolution, or the case may not come to a close. There won't be a resolution, at which point the prosecutor's office will formally charge him. By coming to a resolution or close, Hammoudi means it could be in the form of a plea deal. An example could be a lesser sentence or dismissal of some charges if he pleads guilty. Hammoudi says typically the prosecutor would make this formal offer, but the defense could approach with an offer of their own. Hammoudi says the next 5 months will give both the defense and prosecution ample time to understand the facts of the case to make informed next steps. In the studio, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
All right, Janelle, before you go, what did your expert have to say about just the amount of time requested between now and that preliminary hearing now all the way in June?
Absolutely. He did mention that the amount of time between now and June is something that jumped out at him, but this tells him that both sides are negotiating and that this is a very serious case. Preliminary hearings are not usually set up that far, but he also says the time is beneficial for both sides as they continue to investigate the details and prepare for their next day in court. Whitney?
All right, Janelle, thank you very much. And tonight we are hearing from people who knew the suspect, Brian Kohberger, before he was arrested. He's a graduate student at nearby Washington State University in Pullman. And in an exclusive interview with CBS, one of Brian Kohberger's neighbors there in Pullman said the suspected killer spoke to him about the murders in passing.
He brought it up in conversation, asked if I had heard about the murders, and which I did, and then he said, yeah, it seems like they have no leads. It seems like it was a crime of passion.
That neighbor, who has asked not to be identified, said Kohberger asked him if he'd be able to kill someone if he were a member of the military. The neighbor said he also talked to Kohberger about watching the Netflix drama series about Jeffrey Dahmer, allegedly prompting Kohberger, he says, to share how rare serial killers really are. The neighbor said Kohberger shared more about his grad school research before his arrest. Kohberger was pursuing a PhD in criminology. And tonight we have continued coverage of the arrest. Coming up on KREM 2 News at 4:30, we are taking a deeper look at the DNA evidence found at the crime scene and the weight it can carry in the case against him. In other top stories at this hour, the Spokane man found guilty of a road rage shooting in 2021 will now spend 15 years in prison. This after a jury found the man guilty of second-degree murder just last month. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley had the only camera in the courtroom today for that hearing. She joins us now here in the studio with comments from the families of the victim and the defendant. Amanda?
Yeah, Whitney, I spoke with Richard Huff the day after his arrest back in May 2021. He insisted he acted in self-defense when he shot Erica Keenis, and that's the defense his attorneys clung to during the trial. Today, Huff is still sticking to that story. Now, in May 2021, Huff was in the car with his family when they got cut off by the car the victim was in. Their interactions escalated from there. Huff claims the woman confronted him with a knife and threatened to cut him. Then he shot her. Now, during the sentence hearing this morning, Erica's family told the judge how greatly they feel this loss.
Erica had a light inside of her. I love her very much. Myself and my family are deeply hurt and angry that this happened on a level that none of us can truly express to you here today or understand ourselves yet.
The defendant's family spoke in court this morning as well. Since Huff has no criminal history, the family asked the judge for a low sentence.
I know that he was a very kind-hearted person, and I know that what he did was in self-defense. He didn't really have a way out of it.
Now, when deciding the defendant's sentence, the judge did consider the fact that he has no criminal history and that the woman did get out of the car, confronted him, and that she was angry, which is why the judge set a sentence on the lower end of the standard range, again at 15 years in prison. Now, Huff's defense attorneys told me they do plan to file an appeal on this trial. Huff himself also addressed the judge this morning, and I'll share what he had to say tonight at 5. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
All right, Amanda, thank you very much. New at 4 tonight, police have arrested an 18-year-old woman for a stabbing at an apartment near Meade yesterday afternoon. According to the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, 18-year-old Kelsey Aiken got into an argument with a man inside her apartment that they say escalated into a physical fight where she stabbed him in the shoulder and arm. Police say she ran from the scene. They did arrest her back at her apartment. They say they have now charged her with assault and robbery. Well, police have made an arrest now in the murder of a woman last July. Spokane police say they responded to a death investigation on July 24th. 29-year-old Corbin Hood called 911 and reported that he found his girlfriend dead. Due to the suspicious nature of the death, Spokane Major Crimes then began an investigation. In November, the county medical examiner's office determined the cause of death was a homicide. Detectives were then able to use the information to establish cause and arrest Hood. They say that he was located in a Florida jail on an unrelated charge. The process of extradition now is underway to get him back to Washington to face charges. The inland Northwest is booming with growth, and as part of our Boomtown coverage here on KREM 2, we are at a meeting happening in Hayden, Idaho right now where people are learning a little more about the possibility of a commercial terminal at the Coeur d'Alene Airport. Tonight's informational meeting hosted by Stancraft, which is an airport's operations and management company based out of Virginia. According to the Coeur d'Alene Airport director, if the project happens, it would be located on Airport Drive in a space between 2 other hangars. Parking would be located across the road on what is now an empty lot. So the airport director says this isn't the first time that Coeur d'Alene has had a commercial service airline, but he also says that stopped back in the early 90s.
The airport actually receives multiple phone calls throughout the year for the past couple decades about potentially restarting commercial airlines that service out of Coeur d'Alene. Our biggest drawback right now, though, is we don't have a commercial terminal.
So according to airport officials, the airports would be the one to build the facility if it does get approval. However, the Kootenai County Board of Commissioners put off their decision about this proposed development and a lease during the board meeting just last month. So make sure to tune in to KREM 2 News at 5 tonight, where we will learn more about this project and what happened at tonight's meeting. In the meantime, let's talk weather now. Very gray skies across eastern Washington today. Our meteorologist Jeremy Legoo joining us now with a look at kind of a warming but kind of gray, gloomy forecast. Any sunshine there?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. One day it's possible, but the rest of them, kind of a bit of a wash. Today's not sign of things to come, but it's a good idea of what we have to work with. Temperatures right now, just shy of 40 degrees, 39 here in Spokane with rain coming down, and rain is going to continue to fall. In some locations we have reduced visibility down to about a half mile. Basically those clouds are sitting on the ground in places like Sandpoint, south of Sandpoint along 95, over Lookout Pass, out in Airway Heights, Moses Lake, Wenatchee, up through the Okanagan Highlands and Okanagan Valley. It's socked in, to say the least. Now, when it comes to the reason why, it is the abundance of moisture in the atmosphere. It is quickly switching all over to rain. A little bit of a freezing mix over near Wenatchee right now, but for the most part, it's heavy rain coming down here in Spokane and around the region. We're going to watch that fall for a bit longer, even Mount Spokane. All rain right now. It is that kind of warm outside, and that rain persists through this evening. I think in the 9 o'clock hour, we'll start to see it ebb a little bit. It'll wind down. Tomorrow, it's scattered showers on and off throughout the day. More dry than today, but yes, the moisture kind of sticks around. You want the sunshine? I think Saturday afternoon might be our best bet at seeing a little, but even then, we got to deal with rain on either side of it.